Nobody's going to beat the best player in the world, Steph Curry.
Best player in the world? Steph Curry's the best player in the world?
Yeah, by far.
The NBA is filled with more talent than ever before in history. I mean, giant 7-foot unicorns who used to appear once in a blue moon are now appearing everywhere. 6'6" tanks are reminding us all about the definition of bully ball. And athletic guards these days are jumping around like gravity doesn't even affect them. But in the midst of all these tall, strong, athletic beasts stands a 6'3" skinny kid out of Ohio who could barely dunk a ball. We know he's elite. His resume and accolades speak for themselves. But is he really the best player in the league? Well, let's find out. First off, before we get into some serious debates and dialogues, we have to define what it means to be the best player in the league. Otherwise, we can literally be going in circles all day. Is the best player simply the most unstoppable offensive player? Then how about defense? Where does that factor fit into all this? And then there's leadership. Certainly being able to make your teammates better should play a factor as well in determining if you're the best in the world. We can argue that there should be more factors in this, and we can debate about it for days. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to use these as the 3 determining factors. I'll do this in alphabetical order with the player's last name. And first off, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo. In terms of being unstoppable, Giannis is pretty much everything except a 3-point shot, which is a huge part of today's game. He's elite when it comes to defense, but when it comes to elevating his teammates, I can't say he's bad, but I wouldn't call him the best either. He has a final score of 23.5. Next off, we got Devin Booker. He has a nice offensive game, but there's still a lot of room for improvement. I mean, Jalen Brunson outscored him in their Game 7 matchup for Pete's sake. He's an average level defender, and when it comes to elevating his teammates, it's honestly laughable. His final score here is 14. Jaylen Brown is next. He has a nice offensive package, but it is evident from the finish that he needs to work on his handles. I mean, Draymond himself said that his inability to drive left played a big role in why the Celtics lost. Anyways, his speed and length make him a pretty good defender, and his play on the court definitely does make his teammates better, so Jalen gets a total of 18.5. Jimmy Butler is next on the list. He averaged 27.4 games over the course of the 2022 playoffs, and about 51 shooting from the floor, so needless to say, he's a bucket getter. He's a tough defender, and when it comes to leadership, the Miami Heat really does ride or die on Jimmy Bucket's ability to lead. He gets a total score of 20.5. We're now at Steph Curry. And as we just saw from the finals game against Boston, Steph Curry is the most unstoppable player in the league. Now, even a team boasting the Defensive Player of the Year couldn't slow him down. I mean, we all watched how he cooked the entire Celtics in Game 4, right? Anyways, he's not the best defender, but he's definitely worked on that end of the court since entering the league. And when it comes to leadership and elevating the play of his teammates, he's number one. Why else do you think that practically every player who ends up with the Warriors ends up getting a bag? Curry gets a final score of 24. Okay, we're at the letter D now, and we got offensively DeMar DeRozan. He's the mid-range king, but when he's outside of the 3-point line, he's practically harmless. He's an average 6'6" defender, and when it comes to leadership, he's pretty average there as well. DeRozan gets a final score of 17. Next off, we got Luka Doncic. Even though he's averaging close to 30 points a game, I wouldn't say he's as unstoppable as Curry. He's not quite there yet, maybe in another 2 to 3 years perhaps. Anyway, his defense is atrocious, but his leadership game is solid. Luka gets a solid 20. At this point in time, y'all might be saying, that's crazy! How could you possibly have Butler slightly ahead of young Luka? Well, to be honest, when Butler plays in the postseason, he's a different animal. As we clearly saw, he was a 3-point shot away from bringing the Heat back to the finals. Whereas Luka's Mavericks were never even close. Things might change though, but from what we've seen so far, I got Jimmy slightly ahead. Anyway, next off, we got Kevin Durant. It's crazy, but as we just saw against Boston, there is a way to stop Durant. So for that reason, he doesn't get a perfect score of unstoppableness. He's a decent defender when he tries, but when it comes to leadership, evidently he has tons to work on. KD gets a 21. Joel Embiid is up next. They say this guy can do everything Kobe does on offense, except he's 7 feet tall. He's not the best defender, but his length and size automatically make him a decent defender in the paint. But when it comes to his leadership skills and ability to elevate his teammates, he could definitely use some work. Embiid gets a 21.5. Anyways, time to move on to Kyrie Irving. He is arguably the most talented player in today's game. I mean, he has every move in the book. The defense always has to guess what he'll do next. But when it comes to his own defense, however, it's a different story. And don't even get me started on his leadership skills. Kyrie gets a 14.5. LeBron James is up next. He's 37 years old now, and yet he still finished the season where he averaged 30 points a game. I doubt he'll be able to perform those chase down blocks like he used to, but his size and length are still probably enough to make an impact on defense when he chooses to. When it comes to elevating his team through leadership through 4 championships, LeBron knows a thing or two. The King gets a score of 21. Nikola Jokic is up next. The reigning 2-time MVP has a complete offensive package and also has the softest touch I've seen from a big man. He's not the best defender, but when you're 7 feet tall, you're gonna alter some shots. He'll have to work on his leadership skills a bit more though if he wants to get the most out of his teammates and win a championship. The Joker is at 21.5. Ja Morant of the Grizzlies is up next. When it comes to the guard position, Morant is probably the most explosive. He's also improved his efficiency from beyond the arc, and if that efficiency ever gets close to 40, he's gonna be a huge problem. As for defense, he was able to keep up and block Kyrie a while ago, and more recently, he pinned with 2 hands a layup attempt from Avery Bradley. His ability to elevate his teammates is something he'll have to work on though, because for some strange reason, the Grizzlies did significantly better when Morant wasn't in the game. Morant gets a 17.5. Kawhi Leonard is up next. He's a 3-level scorer, but has trouble scoring over lengthy athletic defenders. He's 31 now, coming off of a leg injury. So although I think he'll still be a good defender, he won't be the defensive player of the year guy that he used to be. His leadership? Very questionable. I mean, isn't that what caused the downfall of the Clippers in the bubble? Kawhi gets an 18.5. The point guard is up next. Chris Paul, like LeBron, is an aging dinosaur that still somehow plays elite-level basketball. Patrick Beverley called him a cone on defense, but there's nothing that could be said about his ability to elevate his team. CP3 gets a solid 16. Next up, we got Jason Tatum. Tatum was almost the complete offensive package, but evidently, from the way Golden State guarded him, he still has areas for improvement. His defense was stellar against Durant, and as for his leadership, he's about the same as Jaylen Brown. Tatum gets a 22. Next off, we got Pascal Siakam. Pascal, in my opinion, is a good player, but vastly overrated. He's slightly above average in offense, slightly above average in defense, and doesn't really elevate his teammates. Pascal gets a 15. Karl Anthony Towns is up next. Honestly, it's not his talent that's holding him back, but more of his mindset. He has the ability to be up there with Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, but yet when it comes to being unstoppable, I got him at a 7. His defense isn't quite there and neither is his leadership. Karl gets a solid 15. Next off, we got Zion Williamson. We haven't seen him play for a year, but man, if this were the 70s and a 3-point line didn't exist, he might be the most unstoppable player. Because of his combination of size and athleticism, his defense is alright too. But when it comes to leadership, being overweight and injured as a result of being overweight doesn't exactly inspire your teammates. Zion gets a solid 16.5. Last off, we got Trae Young. Honestly, I thought Trae was a lot more unstoppable, but clearly, against the Heat in the playoffs, he has a lot to work on when it comes to offense. I mean, he averaged 15 points per game on 18 shooting from 3-point range and was a turnover. Machine defense doesn't come easy for him either at 6'1", or neither does leadership. Ice Trae gets a final score of 15.5. Anyway, that's it for my top 20. And yeah, in my opinion, when it comes to the best player currently in the league, Steph Curry sits on top of the list. I mean, he's unstoppable as we just saw in the finals. He's a great leader, and he works on his deficiencies like defense. He's not the strongest guy, he's not the most athletic, and he's certainly not the tallest. But when it comes to the best, it's hard to argue against the reigning Finals MVP. If you enjoyed the content, uplift the channel by hitting like, subscribe, and ring the YouTube bell to meet us again in the next video. Until next time.